October 22nd, 2014 from Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. It was Game 2 of the World Series between the San Francisco Giants and the Kansas City Royals. And on the mound for Kansas City was Yordano Ventura, and on the mound for San Francisco was Jake Peavy. So Ventura started off things in the top of the first, and the first batter for the Giants, Gregor, Blanco, took Ventura deep and started this game off with a home run, so it was now 1-0 Giants over the Royals. Ventura then settled down and got the next three Giants down in order, actually striking out Buster Posey for the second out, as he got Panic Posey and then Sandoval to ground out. So now we head to the bottom of the first, and the first batter, Escobar, ended up reaching on an infield single, and then Aoki got out. Escobar then was caught stealing, and then Lorenzo Cain came to the plate with 2 outs now, and he hit a double, and then Hosmer walked, and then Billy Butler came to the plate, and he got a single, and that brought Cain around from second, as Cain hustled it out, and he crossed home, and we now had a tie ball game with the score 1-1. Gordon then popped out, and the first came to a close. So after 1, the game was tied at 1. So now in the top of the second, Ventura would get the Giants, the first 2 Giants down, Pence, and they struck out Belt, but then he let up a single to Morse, but then Ishikawa grounded out. So now we head to the bottom of the second. Perez would line out, and then Infante hit a double, and then Moustakas popped out, and now Escobar came to the plate, and he hit a double, and that brought Infante around to score, and it was now 2-1 Kansas City over San Francisco. Aoki lined out, and that was it for the second, but not after the Royals had added a run to the scoreboard and taken the lead by 1, with the score now 2-1 Kansas City over San Francisco. So now in the top of the third, the first 2 Giants would ground out Crawford and Blanco, but then Panic got a single, but then Posey grounded out, and that would be it for the top half of the third. Then in the bottom half of the third, Peavy would set down the Royals in orders. He got Cain, Hosmer, and Butler out. And so we would head to the fourth, with the score still 2-1, Royals over the Giants. So now in the top of the fourth, Pablo Sandoval led off the inning with a leadoff double. Pence then grounded out, and then Brandon Belt came to the plate, and he hit a double, and that brought Kung Fu Panda around to score, and it was now once again a tie ball game, with the score now 2-2. Morse would pop out, and that would end the inning. And so now we headed, well, the top half of the inning, and we headed to the bottom half of the inning, and Peavy would set down the Royals in orders. He got Gordon, Perez, and Infante out, and so after 4, it was a tie ball game at 2 runs apiece. So now in the top of the 5th, Ishikawa would lead off the inning with a single, but then Crawford grounded into a fielder's choice, and Ishikawa was out at second. Blanco then popped out and Panic lined out. And so now we head to the bottom of the 5th. Peavy would set down the Royals in order. He actually struck out Escobar, who was the second batter of the inning. So now after 5, it was still tied up at 2-2. So now on the top of the 6th, we would have some changes, as we actually had Ventura come in to play center field, and Posey was up to bat first. Cain was moved over to right. Posey hit a single to lead off the inning, and then Sandoval popped out. Then Pence ended up reaching on an infield single, so now we had 2 on with 1 out. Herrera then came in to relieve Ventura, and then Belt would fly out, and then Morse grounded into a fielder's choice, and Herrera got out of the top half of the 6th without any damage being done. So now it was the bottom of the 6th inning. Peavy still on the mound for the Giants, and he let up a leadoff single to Lorenzo Cain. He then walked Hosmer, so now we had 2 on with no out. And so Machi was brought in to relieve Peavy, and he let up a single to Billy Butler, and Lorenzo Cain came around to score as the Royals took the lead, with the score now 3-2 Kansas City over San Francisco. We then had a pinch runner for Billy Butler as Gore came in to pinch run for the hefty Butler. And so now Lopez would come in to pitch for Machi as he relieved Machi. And then he got Gordon to pop out, and then they brought in Hunter Strickland to relieve Lopez. So now Lopez would end up throwing Strickland threw a wild pitch, and that would move the runners over. So now Hosmer was on third, and Gore was on second, so we had 2 runners in scoring position. And Salvador Perez at the plate, and Perez got a double, and that brought in both Hosmer and Gore. So it was now 5-2 as the Royals at this point had put up 3 runs on the scoreboard here in the bottom of the 6th. So now Perez was on base, and Infante was at the plate, and Infante went deep as he took Hunter Strickland's yard and brought in Perez as both runners came across the plate. Perez was waiting for Infante to congratulate him, as is customary anytime someone hits a home run in baseball. But somehow Hunter Strickland took offense to this and started yelling at Salvador Perez. A melee, not quite the melee, but a little bit of craziness ensued as both benches were cleared, but quickly the game was brought under control. Nothing really got too out of hand, and they were able to calm down Strickland, and they took him out of the game as Jeremy Affeldt would then come in to pitch. He then let up a single to Moustakas and then got Escobar to ground into a double play, in the 6th inning came to a close, but not after the Kansas City Royals had put 5 runs on the scoreboard. And that 2-run shot by Infante made it 7-2 Royals over the Giants. So now we headed to the top of the 7th. Herrera still on the mound for the Royals. He struck out Ishikawa, then he walked Crawford and Blanco. But then panic flew out and Posey grounded out. And so we headed to the bottom of the 7th after the Giants stranded a pair of runners. So now Tim Lincecum would be on the mound for the Giants as he came in to relieve Affeldt. And he ended up setting down the Royals in order, and he actually struck out the last batter of the inning, Eric Hosmer. So now we headed to the top of the 8th with the score still 7-2, Kansas City over San Francisco. Wade Davis was now on the mound for the Royals, and he struck out Pablo Sandoval, and he struck out Hunter Pence. And then he got Belt to ground out as he set down the Giants in order in the top of the 8th. So now in the bottom of the 8th, Willingham would pinch hit for Gore, and he struck out. Then Gordon ended up popping out. Now Castilla would come in for Lincecum on the mound for the Giants, and he would end up striking out Salvador Perez as the 8th inning came to a close and was still 7-5. So now the Giants were down to their last 3 outs, or the Royals would tie up this series at 1 game apiece, and Greg Holland now came in to pitch for Kansas City. Sussex ended up pinch hitting for Morse, and he struck out. Holland then struck out Ishikawa, but then he let up a single to Crawford. Crawford then ended up taking second base as they didn't even bother to make a throw. They just let him take second as the concentration was just on Gregor Blanco, who was at the plate. And Gregor Blanco had led off this game with the home run, ended up striking out to bring this game to a close as Greg Holland closes the door on San Francisco, and the Kansas City Royals pick up the win and even up this series at 1 game apiece. So the final score in Game 2, Kansas City 7, San Francisco 2. And in this game, on the mound for Kansas City, Ventura pitched 5 1/3 innings. He allowed 2 earned runs and 8 hits, and he struck out 2. Herrera ended up getting the win for the Royals as he pitched 1 2/3 innings, did not allow any earned runs or hits. He did walk 2 batters and get 1 strikeout, and he picked up the W. Davis and Holland both pitched innings of relief and did not allow any earned runs as well. The loss went to Jake Peavy, who pitched 5 innings, allowed 4 earned runs, 6 hits, and he allowed 2 walks. He did strike out a batter, though. For the Royals at the plate, Escobar was 2 for 4 with an RBI. Lorenzo Cain was 2 for 4 with 2 runs. Billy Butler was 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Salvador Perez was 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs. And Omar Infante was 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. As Infante hit the home run for the Royals, Gregor Blanco hit a home run for the Giants. He was also 1 for 4 with that 1 RBI. Pablo Sandoval had a double. He was 1 for 4. Brandon Bell also had a double. He was 1 for 4. Lorenzo, Cain, Omar, Infante, and Escobar, and Perez all had doubles for the Royals. So the Royals win this one, and they even up the series at 1 game apiece